Well, the Chinese Communist Party is announcing new restrictions on religious freedom that will go into effect next month. As we reported yesterday, the crackdown includes limiting all religious activities to official venues and displaying religious symbols indoors only. And joining us now to talk more about this is Hoon Kim, Senior Correspondent of East and South Asian Affairs at the Global Strat View. Hoon, great to be with you, my friend. A lot to get to, but first, I want to get your initial reaction to these new measures by the CCP and remind us, how different would this be from what's already in place?
Well, Tracy, it's really not surprising, given the fact that something like this has been going on in full force since the beginning of the Chinese Communist Party itself. But ever since Xi Jinping came into power in 2012, the mass crackdowns particularly against Christians, has been skyrocketing. Things like the even changing of the Bible recently, where it says in the Book of John, where Jesus, it says on the Chinese Communist Party's Bible that Jesus actually condemned the woman and actually threw stones at her, as for what I remember. And so something like this is not surprising at all to me, or should it be to anybody else? And there has been a lot of deals that's been going on to initiate something like this, and my initial reaction also to this was that it's only going to get worse from this point.
Yeah, and also, Hoon, I mean, can you explain the part of those restrictions, related to getting these venues registered? What's behind that, and how complicated will that process be?
Well, it's very complicated, and again, we're also seeing the Chinese Communist Party weaponizing bureaucracy and all types of legal issues against the church, and particularly when you see things like things like the charges of business fraud against Protestant pastors for simply receiving tithes or offerings from their people, or even you see the crackdown against underground Catholics who have nothing but dedicated to the church and to the cause. And so, if anything, the bureaucracy itself, the weaponization of it, will make it virtually impossible for any genuine Christian in China to practice their faith full force.
Hoon, what's been the reaction from religious groups in China? I mean, have you heard anything?
So, as per my knowledge, the religious groups in China are often and unsurprisingly silenced all the time, and a lot of times they are barred from even talking to anybody in the outside world. But one thing is for sure is that they are fighting hard, and particularly with the underground Christians, even though they're experiencing constant surveillance by the government's attempt to change the biblical structures, where it makes it impossible in certain times for the current generation to pass on the versions of the Bible to the next generation. And so it is very difficult. But from what I understand, the Christians in China are fighting very, very hard. And this goes the same for Uyghur Muslims, for Tibetan Buddhists, even some of the hidden Falun Gong practitioners who have been holding on to their faith since the beginning, essentially since the beginning of their sprout in the CCP-run China.
Hoon, we're almost out of time, but I'm curious. I mean, what is the end game here, and what can the international community do, if anything?
The end game is simple. I mean, it's to make the CCP above all religions. They essentially want to get rid of all religions in China, or get them to basically come to the same conclusion that CCP itself is greater than God or any other deity that's believed by anyone that holds any form of religion. And so, what the international community should be doing is to constantly pressure their government to address this issue, but also at the same time, realistically, we should be looking in every avenue to restrict all types of economic relations with the CCP, because in reality, money is actually the only factor that's helping the CCP to do what it's doing right now and to survive.
Hoon, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Thanks for weighing in. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.